Good morning. We're on week 6, business finance. That's 40% of the way done when we finish this week, so it's pretty impressive how quickly we're moving along. That's some of the good news. Now, some of the bad news is we got a lot of work left to do. So one of the important things while I'm hopefully waiting for my computer to respond is we're working on project 1, right? And I'm receiving various submissions from you guys. Some of you have been extremely good and are well on your way to completing project 1. There's a bigger segment of you that are in the midst of it. You've submitted some things and gotten some parts done, but have parts remaining, and then there's some that haven't hardly done anything at all. So the important thing, for those of you that are about done, great, get after it, get it submitted, let's get it completed and put to rest. For those of you that are in the middle, I have been through the Dropboxes for all the things for Project 1. I've given feedback on everything in Project 1 that has been submitted. Please review your feedback, okay? Please then make the changes that I recommend and get those things back to me as quickly as possible, okay? Your grade on these items is going to start depending on, the time getting this done. For some of you, this may drag on for a while, okay, especially if you don't quickly. Again, for some of you that are about done, wonderful. The faster I can get yours done, then the more time I can spend on some of those that need a little more help. So I'll probably put as a deadline sometime next week for the pro forma or the projected balance sheet. Would I like to see some before then? Absolutely. So again, those of you that are about done, or if you think you have it done, great. If you submit it early, you don't balance, you have some questions, that's the best way to do it. If you're fighting over a number or two and you can't figure it out, put it in there. Let me see if I can find it for you and give you the feedback that you need to get the project completed. So for all of you, please, again, timeliness is really important. I'd like to have everybody done. I know that's being extremely optimistic before we start project number 2, which will start in a week or 2. So please get after these as quickly as you can. Your guys' assignment then, we're on chapter 7, and your guys' assignment was numbers 1, 5, 7, 9. I'm hoping that this computer will bring up the document so we can take a look at it. And again, like I've done in the past, I'll do some samples here for you. Maybe. I'm gonna pause while I try to bring those samples up, if it'll let me pause. Okay, so your guys' assignment is 1, 5, 7, 9, 12, 16, and 17. And as usual, I'm going to go through some problems that are fairly closely related. So your guys' starts on 1. I did number 2, which is quite similar. Number 2 just says Neon Light Company of Kansas City ships lamps and lighting appliances throughout the country. Ms. Neon has determined that through the establishment of local collection centers around the country, she can speed up the collection of payments by 3 days. This can actually really be huge in terms of cash and cash management. Furthermore, the cash management department of her bank has indicated to her that she can defer her payments on her accounts by 1/2 day without affecting suppliers. The bank has a remote disbursement center in Florida. Okay, so what's this doing? Well, believe it or not, for big companies, this is a huge deal. I remember studying Dell computers, which has been in a decline here lately, but back in its heyday, one of the biggest things that it had going for it was its cash management. And when we were studying it, we actually found out that Dell was paid for its computers before it even had to pay for the computers, if that makes sense. People were ordering online, okay, and they would pay Dell immediately, and Dell only then really put in place the things necessary to get the parts and supplies and those types of things. And so they were basically, I think I calculated that in 1 year anyhow, they made about $54 million just in hanging on basically to the customer's money for those extra few days, because they were getting paid ahead of when they actually had to pay. Well, how could you do that? I mean, they ordered and they probably had supplies and stuff on hand and kind of knew those things, but their suppliers to Dell were probably giving Dell 30 days to pay, right? On the other hand, Dell was receiving money from customers right away. People would order online or call, and they'd give them a credit card, and Dell had their money, and then they might wait 30 days to pay. And so it was pretty phenomenal. So when we can save some money, doing some things like this, it's really nice. So I set it up like this, and my computer's stuck again, but just kind of labeled it, and I listed what my collections are. Okay. And so I've got $2.25 million per day in collections. There we go. And $1.05 or $1.05 million per day in disbursements, right? And I'm going to save 3 days on my collections. So just doing the math, and it's simply this, my 3 times my 2.25 equals 3 times 2.25. Okay, my disbursements, I can save a half a day. Well, how do you save a half a day? Well, you probably find out that there's some disbursements that you save a full day on, others that you can't save any time on. So you're basically averaging those. But you can do the same thing. This is equal to C4 times B4. And then I just get a total, all right? So this is how much, it's not how much money I'm saving, but it's how much extra cash I can hold for, 3.5 days really. Except I'm going to be holding that all the time, right? Because every day I'm delaying my payments and I'm receiving my payments a little bit quicker. And so on average, this is what this is saying, is that on average my savings account balance is going to be increased by 7.275 million, and maybe I can earn 6% on that, okay, which we enter as 0.06, okay. And then to figure out what that means for me in terms of extra income, if you want to call it that, it's just simply my 6% times what my average balance is going to be. So I'm going to, that's a pretty cool, nearly $500,000, right? 0.4365, so $436,500, extra income that this company receives by saving money, or by getting the receivables quicker, and delaying their disbursements a little bit. So that's a big deal. Okay. Onward we go. You guys have number 7. So I did, or maybe it's number 5. You guys have number 5, I'm sorry. And I did number 6, which is very similar. 6 says this: Oral Roberts Dental Supplies has annual sales of 5.2. Oh, wait. How come I got weird numbers in here? Yeah, just all kinds of weird numbers. That's okay, I can fix my numbers. So Oral Roberts Dental Supplies has annual sales of $5.2 million. Okay. 90% are on credit. That's why I have that. Okay. 90% are on credit. So 5.2 million, and you can see I just put that in here. I used my equals, and I put $5,200,000 times 0.9 or 90%, and that's where I come up with the $4,680,000 is my credit sales. Okay, so 90% are on credit. The firm has $559,000 in accounts receivable. I just set it up like this. Compute the value of the average collection period. And what they're asking for here is what is the average collection period, and I think I put that on your homework assignment. And so my accounts receivable are that, my credit sales are that. Days of the year, we often use 360 days of the year. It actually goes back to, I think, before calculator times, and so it's just easier to use 360 versus 365. It was kind of like an even 30 days per month, and so a lot of those calculations were simpler. Why we do it now with calculators and Excel and those types of things, I'm not sure, but oh well. Okay, so my average collection period is equal to my accounts receivable, which I know here, divided by my average daily credit sales. Well, my credit sales total for the year are this, and we're saying that there's 360 days of the year. So in order to figure out my credit sales per day, it's simply a matter of dividing my 4.68 million by 360 days. Okay, so equals 4.68 million divided by 360 days. So I'm gonna my credit sales per day are 13,000. Okay, and so average collection period is my accounts receivable divided by my average daily credit sales. So credit sales per day, or average daily credit sales, this could read. Okay, so accounts receivable divided by my average daily credit sales should give me the right answer here. So equals my 559,000 divided by my 13,000. And you can see I put it down here. If you could build the whole formula like this, right? I just broke it down a little bit up here. So I end up with 43 days is my answer. Okay, and you guys have number 9, and so I did number 8, which I believe is similar. So Darla's Cosmetics has annual credit sales of 1.44 million, 1,444,000, 1,440,000, I'm sorry, and an average collection period of 45 days. So it's giving me this information. Again, my days of the year, I'm going to put it 360 because it says assume a 360-day year. What's the company's average accounts receivable balance? It says accounts receivable are equal to the average daily credit sales times the average collection period. Okay, so I know what the collection period is, 45 days, because it's giving me that in the problem. And there's 360 days per year, and my credit sales are 1,440,000. So to calculate my average daily credit sales, I'm just going to take my total credit sales divided by my assumed days of the year to get my average daily. So this is equal to my 1,440,000 divided by my days of the year. So my average daily credit sales are that, and then it gives me the formula. It says accounts receivable are equal to the average daily credit sales times average daily credit sales times the average collection period. So my collection period is 45, average daily. So this is simply equal to my, you can do it either way, my average daily credit sales times my average collection period. And I end up with a total of $180,000. So that's the average that I have on my balance sheet for my accounts receivable. Onward, I think you guys had 12, and I did number 13. Yeah, let's take a look at 13. 13. Oh, we get into a good formula here. FISC. It's like this is kind of like a statistical formula. It's kind of like one of those wonderful mathematical things that we just enjoy doing so much. FISC Corporation is trying to improve its inventory control system and has installed an online computer at its retail stores. FISC anticipates sales of 49,000 units per year, an ordering cost of $8 per order, and carrying costs of $1.60 per unit. What is the economic order quantity? How many orders will be placed during the year? What will the average inventory be? I think that's all you guys have to do for number 12. But then I've got what is the total cost of ordering and carrying the inventory for mine. So again, I'm just going to put in my information. So my sales in units, it gives me is 49,000. My per order cost is $8, and my carrying cost is $1.60 per item. Okay. Now it says here that to calculate my economic order quantity, and I'm not sure which page this is on, but this formula is my economic order quantity is equal to the square root of 2 times, or I'm trying to find it, it is on page 213. So it's equal to 2 times the square root of 2 times my sales in units times my ordering cost divided by my carrying cost. Okay, so I kind of broke it down. First I just did the stuff underneath the square root, so 2 times equal to 2 times, because these are all multiplication and division which are related. I don't need any parentheses, I don't believe. My sales in units times my per order cost, okay, this is my O, okay, divided by my carrying cost per unit. And so I put in here, I just labeled that's before the square root is 490,000, right? Now my EOQ is equal to the square root of that, okay? And so there is actually a square root function. I can come up here and I hit this little FX, okay? And it brings up, you know what, I'm going to cancel it out so I can show you. I'm sorry, I'm going to delete that, okay? And then I'm going to hit this little FX and it'll bring up this deal, okay? And it's insert a function, most recently used. In this case, I think for square root, it's probably under the math and trig. You can also use all, right? And then it's alphabetical, and some people can even type in here SQRT maybe, and it might find it that way. But you wouldn't, if you didn't know that it's square root SQRT. Wow. Oh, I think I've destroyed my computer. Wonderful. Yeah, let me see again. Maybe it'll let me pause for a second and get it working again. Okay, well, it is working. It found it. Okay, but another way to do it again might be to just hit the all, and then they're all listed. And I'm looking for square roots, so I can assume it's going to start with the SQ, even though they're abbreviated. Right? Scroll on down. S alphabetical SQRT. Yep. And then it gives me a little description. It says returns the square root of a number, so I can click OK. And then it asks me what the number is, and I can just click on this one, and it references that. It tells me what my answer is here. I know this is small for you guys, and I can't make this any bigger. I apologize. But it says the square root of 490,000 is equal to 700. Okay, and that sounds right, so I can click on that, and it enters that number for me. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So my economic order quantity, that means the number of items that I should order most economically in order to make the most money, is going to be 700 items per time. And so how many orders, I think it asks me that next, how many orders will be placed during the year? And this is just simply a matter, well, if I'm going to order 700 units at a time and I'm going to sell 49,000 units during the year, my orders per year are just simply equal to my sales divided by the number of items I'm going to order each time. So I'm going to have to order 70 times per year. Okay, so a little more than once a week, right? My average inventory then in items, average inventory is in this case really just your economic order quantity divided by 2. It's just, yeah, I think the book shows you, you end up running out, boom, order, boom, and it just goes up and down. But to figure it, it's just divided by 2, so equal to my economic order quantity divided by 2. There you go. For mine, I got to go on a little bit further. You guys don't have this, I don't think, but I'm going to have 70 orders, right, per year, times $8 per ordering cost, so it's going to cost me $560 per year to order. And I'm going to order on average, I'm going to have on average 350 units. What that means is that in my inventory, if I average it, sometimes I'm going to have 0 and sometimes I'm going to have 700. But on average, I'll have 350 units in, and my carrying cost is $1.60 per unit. So 160 times 350 also comes up to $560. So my total cost, my total ordering cost for the year, be $1,120. Yeah. Okay. Onward we go. 16. And I did one just like 16. I just changed the numbers, okay, just to give you guys an idea. But it's should be similar. So. For you guys, it's Wisconsin Snowmobile Corp. is considering a switch to level production. As you might expect, a snowmobile, they probably produce heavily, coming into the winter, late summer or whatnot. And they're thinking about maybe producing just more year-round, right? Cost efficiencies would occur under level production, and after-tax costs would decline by $36,000. Probably wouldn't need as much overtime, things like that. But their inventory, as you might expect, they're going to be in May and June when they don't really need them. Wisconsin inventory would increase by $300,000. Wisconsin Snowmobile would have to finance the extra inventory at a cost of 13.5%. Determine the extra cost or savings of switching over to level production should the company go ahead and switch to level production. So they give me my cost savings, right? And I changed it. Instead of 36,000, I put that it's 50,000. Okay. And you guys are going to have to increase your inventory by 300,000, but I'm going to increase mine by 600,000, and your guys' rate's 13.5%. I'm just going to put 10%. So what's my increased cost? Well, if I'm going to have this kind of an average inventory and I got to finance that in the bank, I'm using 10%. Yours is 13.5%. My cost then is simply equal to my increase in inventory times my interest rate, or $60,000. Well, I got $50,000 in cost savings. I've got an increased cost or an interest cost, okay, of $60,000. That's not a very good deal, right? I'm probably better off not switching in that case, okay? But then it asks, well, at what rate? Maybe I can go in and negotiate with the bank, and it says, how low would interest rates need to fall before level production would be feasible? And so I'm gonna calculate kind of what the break-even point is here anyhow, where these two would be equal, and that's simply, here's my cost savings, right? Okay, and divide that into my increased inventory, and that gives me a rate. Really what that's telling me is that if I take my increased inventory that I have to finance, at what rate is that going to equal my cost savings? Okay. But to calculate it is just simply a matter of saying this is equal to my cost savings. Sorry, my computer's slowing up again, divided by my increased inventory. So 8.33% here would be the number, right? All right. And you could do the math. You could say, well, if this is 8.0833, it's probably on and on. And we'll change that to a percent. Oops. I think I got, yep. Okay. Then this is equal to my increased inventory times this. And it's going to equal 50,000. Okay, round it up. I'd have to carry this out forever, and then it would be equal to 50,000 exactly. So, in essence, I would have to be something below 8.33%. Okay, in order for it to be feasible. So, that would be my answer. 8.33% would be an adequate answer in that case. Number 17, then. And again, I'm doing 17, I'm just changing the numbers. Your guys, it says Johnson Electronics is considering extending trade credit to some customers previously considered poor risk. So we're going to expand our credit sales a little bit. Sales would increase by $150,000 if credit is extended to these new customers. Of the new accounts receivable generated, 5% will prove to be uncollectible. Additional collection costs will be 2% of sales, and production and selling costs will be 74% of sales. The firm is in the 35% tax bracket. So wow, all kinds of information, and I'll show you what we'll do with that here in a second. But we want to compute the incremental income after taxes. What will Johnson's incremental return on sales be? And then if the receivable turnover ratio is 3 to 1, we've got lots of questions to answer. So let's go and put things in order first. Okay, and again, I use different numbers. Yours is 150. I just used 100,000 in sales. So I've got my 100,000 in sales, and I said for my example that my cost of goods sold is 79%. Okay, and sorry, my computer's bogging down on me again here, but you might, like in your guys' cases, it's 74%, and okay, and so you might come over here actually, 0.79 and change that. We'll make that a percent here, hopefully. And so then if you wanted to do it this way, you could say this is equal to my sales times my selling cost, production and selling costs, or cost of goods sold percentage. Okay, so that I simply do the math then, and I figure out what my gross profit is by saying this is equal to my sales minus my cost of goods sold. Okay. Then it tells me, and it just gives me this information, and again I use different percentages. I said that of my new accounts receivable, I'm going to get 6% that are uncollected, and so these are all accounts receivable that we're going to have, and so 6% of my sales here are going to be uncollectible. So I put the 6% in, and then my collection costs 3%. I'm going to have an increase of 3% as a percent of sales in collection costs. So I can just simply say this is equal to my 6% times my sales. Oops, you know what, maybe I'd better put this in. I'm going to put this in as a negative number, okay? And so I can simply, I'm going to just start all over. I'll delete that and say, okay, minus, and I don't even have to put the equals in there. I can just say minus 6% times my sales. And that gives me a negative number. Could I do that? I could have done that with my cost of goods sold up here too, and then gross profit would have been that plus that. Okay, collection costs, same thing, minus my 3% times my sales of 100,000. Okay, so my incremental income now that I get before taxes, incremental income before taxes, is equal to my gross profit minus my 6,000, which is already a negative number, and minus my 3,000, which is already a negative number. So really, since I've already got these entered as negative numbers, it's just the sum of these three. Okay, so I can come up here and click my sum, and I just want to grab these three. Okay. So I get incremental income of 12,000, right? My taxes, and I think your guys' is at 35%. I used 40%. I could have put the 40% over here. It doesn't matter. But I just kind of put things all over the place. I'm sorry about that. This is equal to then my tax rate times my incremental before tax income. Okay. Uh-oh. Once again, I should have probably said it's minus my taxes times my incremental income. So I get a negative number. So my net income is this minus my taxes, which I've already got as a negative number. So it's just going to be the sum of those two. There we go. So my net income is $7,200. Great. That would answer A. B then is, what will Johnson's incremental return on sales be if these new credit customers are accepted? Well, return on sales, return on anything, is just your net income divided by whatever that anything is. In this case, it's sales, so return on sales. So it's simply equal to my net income divided by my sales. And you'll probably end up with 0.072, and certainly you can change that then to a percentage, right? Okay, then it gets a little trickier, and it says if the receivable turnover ratio is 3-to-1 and no other asset buildup is needed to serve the new customers, what will Johnson's incremental return on the new average investment be? Okay, well, what's asking me there, I'm going to go up and color my answers here first, though, so that they're easier for the instructor to find. I said that my receivable turnover is 4 times per year. Your guys' is 3 times per year, and what that means is that that's how often basically I'm getting paid. Okay, 3 times per year means that they're paying you, you know, on average every 120 days. Okay. In my case, I said 90 days, 4 times per year. Okay, and what that means is that I'm going to have an account receivable in my case equal to 1/4 of my sales. Your guys's would be 1/3 of your sales. So I can simply say that this is equal to my receivable turnover, well, it's 4, but my accounts receivable then, is equal to my sales divided by my receivable turnover. Okay, so my average accounts receivable is going to be $25,000, and I'm going to have to, that's going to be an investment that I have to make, right? Okay, and your guys's would be, you know, 150,000 divided by 3. Okay, so then it asks me what's my incremental return going to be on that investment, and that's simply, so it's return on investment. This is what I have to invest is this $25,000. My return on is my net income divided by my average accounts receivable, or my investment amount, so equal to my $7,200 divided by my $25,000, 28.8%. That's a dang good return. I'd be more than happy with that. And you want to get this amount because if I had to finance this $25,000, I could make an easy comparison, right? If the bank's going to charge me 10% to finance that full amount, and I can make 28.8%, yahoo! I would be one happy camper right there. I tell you what, I'd be maybe even looking at expanding that just a little bit more, right? Because my incremental return is really, really nice then. And especially if it exceeds my cost of funds, which it would, you know, 28.8% is a nice return. That's probably going to exceed whatever cost of funds I might have. So there you have it. Another exciting edition of Business Finance. I hope you enjoyed it as much as you've enjoyed all of them to date. And please get your financial documentation in as soon as possible. Please read the feedback that I have been leaving you and make corrections and get stuff to me just as quickly as you possibly can. I appreciate your efforts in that regard. Thank you, and we'll talk again.